So I've recently been rewatching some of the classic Marvel films, you know, the Raimi trilogy, the OG X-Men trilogy, the Blade movies. You had all these awesome films with great characters, and it would have been so cool to see them interact with each other. And that really was the basis of the MCU, right? Create a suite of movies that echo the comics, a universe that has heroes and people that can cross over with each other. And so all of this made me want to go and rewatch the first Avengers film, which cashed in on that promise and delivered a film that still to this day makes me smile and cheer. The beauty of this film is that it was the culmination of all of the solo films that came before it. You know, Iron Man 1 and 2, The Incredible Hulk, Captain America and Thor. The groundwork was done, and now we could just dive in and see all these characters interact with each other. And to begin with, they all clashed. And from that clash, we got an amazing scene that set up so many narrative threads that the MCU would go on to develop. So, let's dive into the argument in Bruce Banner's lab, which I think might be the best scene in the MCU, and look at how much it sets up going forward. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, guys, it really helps, and ding that bell if you want to get notifications of when my new videos go live. Okay, so I'm not going to go line by line here. This is a big scene with a lot going on. So what we're going to do is going to take it chunk by chunk, looking both at individuals and certain interesting interactions.
What are you doing, Mr. Stark?
Kind of been wondering the same thing about you.
So the whole scene starts off with Nick Fury being confronted by Tony Stark and Bruce Banner about the Tesseract weapons that SHIELD have been making, which they have been made aware of by hacking into SHIELD's systems.
What is Phase 2?
Their trust in SHIELD as an organisation is being called into question, and Cap brings in a Tesseract weapon that proves Nick Fury is lying.
Phase 2 is SHIELD uses the cube to make weapons.
Guys, it's called Phase 2. Phase 2 in the MCU is when we learn that SHIELD is not what it seems to be. This whole organisation turns out to be compromised, and here we see them creating weapons to monitor potential threats, and this all leads to Project Insight that we see in The Winter Soldier. And even here, SHIELD are monitoring and consider Captain America to be a threat.
Are you boys really that naive? SHIELD monitors potential threats.
Captain America's on threat wall.
We all are.
You're concerned.
Which again we see come into fruition in The Winter Soldier. We also see Cap start to question the authority and integrity of SHIELD in this scene, which is a major theme of his second solo film.
What were you lying?
I was wrong, Director. The world hasn't changed a bit.
Now let's talk about Bruce Banner.
Did you know about this?
You want to think about removing yourself from this environment, Doctor?
I was in Calcutta. I was pretty well removed.
We see here a connection between Bruce and Natasha. He asks her specifically if she was aware of what SHIELD were up to, and she is the one who is most cautious of Bruce turning into the Hulk. This foreshadows their upcoming romantic relationship, a connection between the two of them, and Natasha's ability to calm Hulk in Age of Ultron. Banner also touches upon his isolation and how he has been dealing with being the Hulk and how he views his alter ego.
You rented my room
The cell was just
in case you needed to kill me, but you can't. I know, I tried. I got low. I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out. So I moved on. I focused on helping other people. I was good until you dragged me back into this freak show and put everyone here at risk. You want to know my secret, Agent Romanoff? You want to know how I stay calm?
The relationship between Banner and Hulk is shown in its horror here. The fact that Bruce was willing to kill himself to rid the world of the Hulk shows how scared he was of it. But it also hints towards his ongoing relationship and ability to control the monster. We see his anger brewing as he unknowingly picks up the scepter during his speech, showing us that maybe him and the Hulk's temperament aren't that dissimilar, which plays into this reveal at the end of the film.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
And that is the beginning of the journey that we see him go through as he comes to terms with the Hulk, how they eventually learn to coexist, becoming Professor Hulk in Endgame. All of that is touched upon here, reminding us all of how much Bruce has been through and how tragic his story really is. And his relationship with Tony Stark is also built up here. This is the first time we see the Science Bros working together, which we see culminate in Age of Ultron, which ultimately is disastrous. Thor's character doesn't really say much in this scene, but regardless, he is a large presence. Not only is the only character not of Earth, but his view of humans is so low. This plays into his arc that stretches the whole of the MCU, the idea of his ego and how he values himself and others. These 3 lines show a sense of disdain for the human race.
Sorry, isn't everything?
I thought humans were more evolved than this. Excuse me, did we come to your planet and blow stuff up?
Treat your
champions with
such
You're not my
Are you boys really that naive?
Speak of control, yet you caused chaos.
This is MO.
But Thor's presence is also how Fury justify what S.H.I.E.L.D. has been doing.
I'd like to know why S.H.I.E.L.D. is using the Tesseract to build weapons of mass destruction.
Because of him.
Last year, Earth had a visitor from another planet who had a grudge match that leveled a small town. We learned that not only are we not alone, but we are hopelessly, hilariously outgunned.
And this plays into 2 aspects of the MCU as a whole that we see develop after this film. First of all is the presence of people with superpowers. We're at the end of phase 1 and only have a handful of people with powers, but by the end of phase 2 and phase 3 culminating in Endgame, the number of superhumans explodes. This line here,
And you're not the only threat. The world's filling up with people who can't be matched. They can't be controlled.
mirrors Vision's line in Civil War.
In the 8 years since Mr. Stark announced himself as Iron Man, the number of known enhanced persons has grown exponentially. Our very strength invites challenge. Challenge incites conflict. And conflict breeds catastrophe.
Which really is a meta-commentary on the nature of the MCU's expansion as more films introduce more characters. And second of all, it emphasizes the importance of Earth in the MCU.
Your work with the Tesseract is what drew Loki to it, and his allies. It is a signal to all the realms that the Earth is ready for a higher form of war.
Earth is the focus of so many stories, so many situations and events, which makes sense because that's where we live. And this is a lovely little nod to the Earth becoming such a big player in the MCU. And now we get to Cap and Tony. We've already stated how the seed of Steve's distrust... Whoa, try and say that 5 times really quick. The seed of Steve's distrust. Ah, there you go. We've already stated how the seeds of Steve's distrust have been sown, but the most evident foreshadowing in this whole scene is him clashing with Tony. But it goes deeper than just 2 big personalities fighting against each other. It even goes down to the words that they use to grill each other, being huge indicators of their fate. Steve takes the first swing,
I'm sure if he still made weapons, Stark would be neck deep.
Wait, hold on.
showing that Cap thinks so little of Stark. He doesn't believe him to be a moral character. He isn't a good guy, he's just chasing money, chasing fame. Everything is about himself and not about anyone else.
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you? I've seen the footage. The only thing you really fight for is yourself.
Now let's have a look at Tony for a second. He's still growing from his 2 solo films, trying to pivot away from the weapons of mass destruction, the missiles that his name is attached to. You can see a little bit of this sentiment come out during this line here.
We had to come up
A
with
nuclear deterrent, because that always calms everything right down.
Remind me again how you made your fortune, Stark.
But that reckless sense of discovery, that scientific urge to test things to the very limits, comes out in 2 small little interactions with Banner. This line here.
We're a time bomb.
You need to step away.
Why shouldn't the guy let off a little steam?
You know damn well why. Back off.
As well as a little earlier on where he zaps Bruce.
Well, I promised a stress-free environment. No tension, no surprises.
Ow! Hey!
Nothing?
Are you nuts?
It's as if he wants to test him, to see if he will turn into the Hulk. It's like he's fascinated by the idea of the Hulk and he wants to see him in action. And this idea of pushing boundaries, researching and developing in a reckless way, hints towards Age of Ultron, where his curiosity will inevitably get the better of him, causing him to create Ultron. And we all know what happens after that. The tension between these 2 just keeps on building. Steve doesn't see Tony as a team player. He says that Tony would never sacrifice himself for anyone, and that he is no hero.
You're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. To lay down on a wire and let the other guy crawl over you.
I think I would just cut the wire.
Always a way out. You know, you may not be a threat, but you better stop pretending to be a hero.
He thinks that without the suit, he's just a selfish man. Without the suit, he's nothing. And this eventually leads into Iron Man 3. Tony isn't in his suit much at all in that film, and a big theme of the movie is Tony figuring out who he is without it, and his relationship with being Iron Man. And then a few films later, we see Tony himself echo a sentiment that is rooted in this conversation to Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming.
This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it, okay?
You see the fruits of this interaction 10 films down the line. And the best part is that everything Cap and Tony say to each other here in this scene is proved to be wrong by the end of Endgame. On Tony's selfishness, not only do we see this being challenged in this very film as he flies the nuke into the portal, nearly dying in the process, we even see that Steve has 180'd his opinion by the time we get to Infinity War.
Earth just lost her best defender.
And then fast forward to Endgame. And who is it that sacrifices himself for the whole of the universe? It's Tony. It's not Cap. It's not Thor. It's not anybody else. It's Iron Man. And in the same vein, what Tony says to Steve is also proved wrong.
You're a laboratory experiment, Rogers. Everything special about you came out of a bottle.
In this scene, Stark sees Steve as an experiment, someone who has been given power without having earned it, someone not worth enough to be a hero. Everything special came out of a bottle. But we see, time and time again, Steve Rogers defy the odds. His ability to lead and bring people together, his willpower to do good is what makes him the hero he is, not just his strength. And eventually, in Endgame, we see the universe acknowledge this and prove Tony wrong. And then finally, we get to this line.
Man, what are we, a team? No. We're a chemical mixture that makes chaos. We're a time bomb.
The whole point of this film is to bring together these individuals to do amazing things. And we see them do this at the end of the film, and it is glorious. But they are still a ticking time bomb. Eventually, it is the Avengers that create Ultron. It is the Avengers that are responsible for Lagos. It is the Avengers that fight each other in Germany. Regardless of how much they achieve, in the end, the Avengers breed chaos. And let's not forget that the whole of this scene takes place in the presence of an Infinity Stone, a foreshadowing of all the mayhem that those stones will cause. The seeds that are sown, the character dynamics that are developed upon, the narrative threads that are woven into the fabric of this universe are all integrated into this scene, this film, so seamlessly and effortlessly. To this day, this remains as one of my favourite scenes in the MCU, and I hope that this video did a good enough job of explaining why that is. In a film about these superheroes fighting gods and aliens, it's a testament to the writing when an extremely grounded scene where people just stand around and talk to each other is the most memorable part. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, guys. And also drop a comment down below. What's your favourite part of the scene? And if I missed anything really cool, be sure to let me know. So that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!